Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our Attracting and Developing Talent Through Career Pathways session. I'm Emma Whittenstall. I'm a Cluster Engagement Manager for Health Tech here at Dynamo, so I'm really pleased to be introducing the speakers for this session, Kirste Worland, Helen O'Donnell, and Phil Stephenson from NHSBSA. Now, NHSBSA were the winners of the Skills Developer Award at the Dynamites in 2019, which recognises those who are proactively backing the development of the North-East Skills Pipeline through training, recruitment, and perhaps more importantly, retaining talent in our region's tech sector. So the format of this session will be 3 talks from the team explaining how the NHSBSA seek to attract and develop talent. So we'll kick off with Kirste Worland, who has developed the Technology Career Pathway Scheme based on the model used by the Citizen Survey Department. Kirste will talk about how the NHSBSA develops staff using career pathways, including passporting staff from non-technology to technology careers. Helen will follow up. She joined the NHSBSA as a digital apprentice in 2017 and has acted as a role model supporting their outreach activities. Her talk's going to focus on how they work in the region to promote STEM careers across schools and colleges and to Army veterans, which is fantastic. And Phil will explain how the NHSBSA's approach to adopting new tools and techniques to maintain skills and job variety. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Kirste.
Oh, thanks very much, Emma. I'm sure everybody's really dying to hear about this, despite the weather outside. So I'll try and keep it as succinct as possible and hopefully take you along that journey with us. So thinking about that journey and where we started, I'm sure you'll have all heard lots of times today the term digital skills gap, and I probably first came across that back in 2014 when I was reading an article talking about the rise of technology and the unprecedented rate in which it was developing, and you know that fourth industrial revolution. So in this report, it suggested that by 2020, we would have a shortage of digital skills of around 756,000. So I'm sure you'll agree that's quite a staggering number. And reflecting on this, I kind of wanted to show you share with you how this helped me to shape my thinking and how we as an organisation adapted and explored different ways to overcome some of the challenges around attracting and recruiting and retaining and really supporting our colleagues to evolve, but also whilst playing a small part in bridging the gap regionally as well. One of the challenges we had was that we struggled to attract candidates with fully formed skills to fill the vacancies. So changing the approach that we had, and we really focused on 2 main strategies. So we began to develop internal colleagues and then focus as well on developing those pools of talent through the outreach activities and looking at our internal colleagues, what were our existing and our future needs, and really supporting them to evolve their skill sets. You know, we had quite a number of mainframe developers who we've helped to shape and evolve into different roles. We've had people who've worked within prescription services for a number of years, who we've supported coming into IT through apprenticeships. And more recently, you know, we modelled a career pathway on some of the work that our colleagues were doing in the citizen services area, and really around recruiting internal staff to kind of fill some of those new and evolving roles. We've also recognised the need to accelerate some of that learning in key areas and looked at partners such as Opencast to help supplement the development of our internal colleagues and augment skills within the automation testing area, and you know, really worked with them to build some of some bespoke training modules for us around that automation testing, that front end and accessibility, which has been really, really well received by all of the teams who've gone through that process. We've also then, really committed to providing and empowering our colleagues to take learning and development days. When we first started on this journey, we looked at how much time people were put into personal learning and development, and it worked out at around 3 working days per whole-time equivalent. And our CTO, Nick O'Reilly, committed to us that people should have a minimum of 5 working days for which they can spend to develop their own skills in the way they wanted. And, it took us a little while to encourage people to do that. And also, we needed to empower the managers to be able to enable their teams to actually take that up. And now over the last couple of years, it's really gone from strength to strength. So, last year we recorded about 9 working days per whole-time equivalent, and this year we're forecasting about 12 working days per whole-time equivalent, which is a massive change in comparison to where we're at. We've also ensured that we focused on developing pools of talent externally as well through outreach, and Helen will come on and talk a little bit more about that a little bit further. But as an organisation, we really accepted the fact that this was going to be a longer term investment. We weren't going to get any, quick hits off it. What we didn't expect, or what we didn't anticipate, is the actual motivational benefit that the outreach activities and how that actually increased engagement within our own teams, as well as giving something back to the communities. And what you can see on the slide that Phil's showing there now is how the shape of one of the teams has developed over the last 3 years. So as you can see in the shape, with the bottom part represents entry-level roles, the middle part more established roles, and going on to management and senior roles. Now you can see by graph 3 that shape has changed completely. So we have now around about 1/3 of our cohort of our teams are in entry-level roles, because we've actually invested in taking people through that career pathway journey. The whole benefit to the internal staff, as well as that outreach side of it, is around that motivation, that productivity, and really create some positive experiences, not just by the students, but by the people running the sessions as well. Some of the things that we are doing as well is reviewing the language we use, and making sure that we continue to refine the language we use to make our adverts, our roles, our opportunities more attractive to other people. And basically what we're looking to do is we're looking to attract talent. We want to make STEM more accessible and fun. It's not just all about lines of code. It's not just about writing reams and reams of code. We want to showcase some of our role models that we have within the organisation, and our main drivers are to build and maintain a diverse workforce, and we can only do that with promoting the talent. One of the areas that we really worked on was military veterans, and Helen and Phil have both been great advocates to go out and stand in front of strangers and tell everybody how wonderful the NHS Business Services Authority is. But just to tell a little bit of a backstory of that, I was filling a role for Nick O'Reilly. He delegated a particular meeting. There was a bunch of IT leaders in a room, and there was a small bullet on a screen that said AWS Restart. And I was quite intrigued by it, so I went and found out. Was a little bit curious. Went and found out a little bit more about it. And back in 2017, I found myself in Manchester in front of a room full of army veterans, which was very scary. I think that they were more scared of me than I was of them, to be fair. but I could see that there was a wealth of untapped potential there. And, really, really glad to say that from not having any service leavers within, specifically within technology, we now have 6. And that's through all of the really great work that people like Phil and Helen, but also people like Emma, who was one of our first, AWS a veteran who joined us, and all of the great work that she's done in going out and promoting this pathway, which has been amazing. I think we'll continue to work and build ways, find ways to build and maintain a diverse workforce. Here we see Helen again, but we also see 2 of our colleagues, Neil and Andy, and they both came in very, very different ways. Neil came in through pathways from primary care, and Andy more recently came in through an entry-level pathway. Andy had been a developer but didn't have any skills within the automation area, so we've really worked with him, and actually he's worked incredibly hard to develop his skills within that area, and he's gone from strength to strength. We will obviously continue to invest in all of our colleagues and support the development of their technical skills, and also their soft skills, their communication skills. And we had a cohort of around 12 of our team who went on to learn British Sign Language to improve their communication skills so that they could interact better with one of our trainee test colleagues who's profoundly deaf. So that demonstrates some of the commitment we've got to supporting each other as a really great network to bring people on. I am going to hand over to Helen now, who joined us as an apprentice, and she's going to share her journey and her experiences and really talk to you a bit more about some of the outreach stuff that she's done over the last 3 years. Thank you, Helen.
Thanks, Kirsty. Hi, everyone. I'm Helen. My pronouns are she and her. I started at the NHS Business Services Authority 3 years ago as a Digital Technology Solutions Data Analyst degree apprentice with Northumbria University. Prior to that, I'd worked in research, and I recognised that I needed to change my career path, and also that I would need to do further learning. Sorry, I think there's a bit of feedback. Phil and Kirsty, could you please mute your mics, please, for now? Thank you. Yeah, so I looked into further learning and recognised that once seeing the apprenticeship advertisement, that would be a great opportunity for me. So I got in touch with Kirsty, who went over the benefits of doing the degree and working in the workplace and how those two would tie into each other, and also the different courses the different modules that I would be able to study as well, such as web analytics, web design, and relational databases. And I'm really glad that we had that chat because it's opened up many opportunities for me. So 6 months into the job role, I went for a permanent position, a band 5, and was successful as an application support developer. And this allowed me to fix technology issues, but also to continue on with my knowledge of web design. And then from there on, I went for a job role as a data visualization developer at band 6. And that's enabled me to tie in my knowledge of web design with data analytics, which is, as I've mentioned, 2 of my great passions. So it wouldn't have been possible without the opportunities, the commitment from the leadership team to support internal development, but also the enthusiasm from colleagues around the department. So I've sat down with a number of colleagues who have discussed their roles with me, the software that they use on a day-to-day basis, and also how I would be able to further progress, such as online courses. And I just think it's great to see the time and energy that people are willing to give you and help you and support you in your development as well. I was really fortunate to have a workplace mentor who on a weekly basis discussed what I'd been doing and how I could progress further. And I was also really fortunate to be a workplace mentor for the next apprentice cohort. I am part of the Diversity and Inclusion Network as well, which has opened up a number of opportunities for me, and I'm really passionate about bringing in diverse talent and being inclusive. So this allows me to look at equal opportunities throughout the organisation and how we can better promote and progress those, as well as being a mental health first aider and really supporting our colleagues. Could you go to the next slide, please, Phil? Thanks. So I recognise that outreach is really important. Here we are at Newcastle University talking to students, and I think opening up the chance for students and anyone really to have that platform and ask those conversations with employers is really beneficial, because they might not have the chance otherwise, and it also allows them to further hone in on what they are interested in, and open up the range of opportunities that there are out there as well. So we've spoken at a number of events and detailed our progression, but also steps that might help them in their progression as well. We've also been to a number of AWS Restart events in which military veterans and their families can go to try and help smooth the pathway into civilian life and into the workplace. It's been really beneficial to see the number of colleagues that we've got in the workplace, such as Emma, who Kirste mentioned earlier, because these the military veterans are really skilled and talented people who just might be unsure about going back into civilian life, and the diverse talents that we've seen come out of that has been really eye-opening. So I would definitely recommend the AWS Restart programme. But of course, you can't forget about the younger generations as well. So we've went to a lot of schools doing different presentations. Here we are talking to students about agile processes and talking them through agile processes using Lego. It's been really interesting to see how they've used them practices and could use those in daily life, but also how they might see themselves in the workplace at a future date, or where their skills could tie into different parts of an organisation as well. This is an Erasmus International Outreach Day, and we had students from England, Poland, Germany and Italy, and it was great seeing the cross-collaboration between the tables, and seeing the students look at important issues such as data collection and how best to store and maintain data, but also accessibility, and seeing students consider accessibility needs and how they could make services more accessible was great to see. This is an Autism Awareness Day in which the students faced a range of complex problems, and it was really beneficial for the students themselves as well to see the benefits that they bring to an organisation. So that's a bit about my journey and the range of events that we do in terms of outreach. I just want to say that it's really important to open up the doors to give people the platform to get to know employers, but also to see their benefits within the workplace as well. Thanks.
Thank you, Helen. Thank you. That's brilliant. And as I said in the chat, using pathways and platforms such as Global Bridge really opened up our ability to engage with students right across all ages, and certainly, just to kind of conclude that story, one of the students we had in on had a really positive experience with us, and then subsequently applied for apprenticeship and was successful last September. So, some great success stories. Phil, I'm going to hand across to you now. You have a slightly different story. There are some similarities, there are some differences, but it would be great for you to share yours now.
Okay, thank you, Kirsty. Okay, hi all. So yeah, my name's Philip Stephenson. So I'm the lead platform engineer here at the NHS Business Services Authority, and I just wanted, like Kirsty said, to talk a little bit about my journey, but also our organisation's journey into the cloud and some of the challenges we've faced with upskilling staff. So a little bit about me. I've always had a passion for computers and IT, but I'd be the first to say that I'm not a very academic person. I spent far too much time in the pub at uni and consequently dropped out. But I've done a range of IT jobs, support, network administrator. I've been a web developer and a software developer. But I was really looking for an area to specialize in. I felt my career was maybe languishing a little bit, and I hadn't really found that role that I was really passionate about. And it wasn't until I joined the NHSBSA that I was sort of given that opportunity to find that. So there was two initial big changes at our organisation. There was the government's Digital First initiative, where everything that we'd done new service wise would need to be developed for a digital based system, where predominantly in the past, we might have done that in a paper-based system. And if you look at things like prescription forms that we deal with, that was a big leap for us. And the other change was this move to an agile framework for developing and delivering software. And again, from a more traditional waterfall background, that was two big changes. So to come up with a solution and to help us deliver this digital first and in an agile manner, we created a mixed skill team to do a proof of concept to see how we would get into the cloud and how we could leverage that technology to complete that. So that was a mixed skill set team from different backgrounds, different levels of experience, and we augmented that team with short-term contractors to help guide us and help lend some of their external experience to our team. And I found that was this was a sort of area that I was really passionate about. That the DevOps culture, the cloud technologies were all things that I was really keen on. So I was spending all hours of the day basically learning and trying to absorb as much as I could from the contractors. They probably all just wanted to go home, but I was in the mindset there. If they were in the office, I was in the office. So it's all about leveling up as quick as I could. So must remember to move slides on. So there is some big issues with that. There was a huge technology stack all of a sudden for our teams to learn. So historically, we've a lot of our IT had been outsourced, and while we were comfortable delivering and designing applications and supporting them, we'd over the years lost some of those skills from an infrastructure side. So it wasn't just about a broad knowledge that the team needed; it was the depth as well. So we had to be really comfortable with all the stack from the infrastructure all the way to the application. The other issues were, the cloud allows us to move a lot faster. It allows everyone to move a lot faster, but we can't just sit on our laurels. We can't deliver a cloud platform and then walk away. We have to be continually innovating, and that takes time, that takes effort, and that takes a team that's keen to keep moving and be motivated. The other issues we had were obviously the pace that we're moving here. We need the staff. We need a large number of staff to be able to support the applications, the infrastructure. And really, historically, the public sector quite often struggles to compete, as Kirste says, to hire skilled staff, especially in the Northeast with the DevOps boom. We haven't maybe always been able to be quite as aggressive in our recruitment. So we've had to come up with, it's a challenge. We've had to come up with some solutions. So what we've done is we have offered secondments or opportunities to members of the staff who have shown an interest in or a desire to learn new technologies and new skills. And what we do is we allow these team members to shadow and receive mentorship from senior engineers, and we help build skills and build their confidence over a period of time. So what we like to do is add different tasks. I like to give our team members a project to work on, because I think it's not until you really have to think for yourself, it's fair enough shadowing and learning from someone and listening, but it's not until you have to do that yourself and come up with solutions yourself that you really sort of it all clicks and it comes together. So we like to allow team members to take on some responsibility backed by an engineer and build their confidence in their skill that way. We also encourage team members to really get involved in the DevOps community to further their knowledge. So we're obviously partners with some industry leaders. NHS is obviously quite a nice juicy name to have on their book, so we can leverage that. We can get training courses off them. We can get them on site to provide support and upskill our team. And like I say, yeah, we try and get them involved in the community. So whether that be attending conferences like this, or maybe it's just at an attendee level, or we ask them to talk, or we can do a lot of networking as well at these events. So I think it's a great way, networking and talking to peers. It helps build and share ideas, but build confidence and build the passion and by throwing ideas around. So one great example of that is we met some colleagues from another NHS organisation, and we went down and we shared some ideas. We shared code and experiences, and we've been able to really share and progress both sort of sides of those organizations. And then if we haven't been able maybe to fulfill some of those roles from internal opportunities, obviously, like Kirste and Helen said, we've used the AWS Restart program. So I went down to Manchester and talked to some military veterans, and then we can shore up with contractors. Sometimes that's the right answer. If we've got a shortfall in resources, they can help pick up that slack, but we can also leverage some of their knowledge. So it's good to take a mix there. And then it's hard to find a group shot that maybe is appropriate for a presentation. There's not too many beers in this picture, but what I wanted to sort of leave it with was, I think taking the time to invest in grassroots really helps create a strong team. So there is obviously this initial lag with this approach. You don't maybe necessarily get all the skills that you need instantly, but in the long term, the loyalty to the company or the organization, but to the team, I think is unbeatable. Everyone is there to support each other. Everyone's come up and skilled up together, and I think everyone's there to support, and they'll dig in and maybe go that extra mile for you and for the team. And I think that sometimes can outweigh the benefits maybe of just hiring someone instantly. So that was it from my perspective.
Thank you, Phil. You'll agree, both Helen and Phil are very passionate about what they do and about their journey, and they're just representative of a number of people who we could have invited along to talk today, who are journeys, amazing stories that they could share. So just before we do conclude for today, I want to leave you with two final thoughts. So I am a bit of a fan of Michelle Obama, and I think some of her quotes are amazing. So why this one's relevant for me is, over the years, I've heard the words and said them myself. I'm only this, or I'm only that, or who's going to listen to me? What difference can I make? And what I would ask all of you is, really don't ever underestimate the difference you can make, because no matter how large or small your action is, you can make a difference. And especially within careers and supporting people, it's really, really important that we remember every single person, from our entry level, our veterans, our apprentices, our students, they all make a difference. And it gives so much more richer environment within which to work. And I just really want to kind of emphasize that fact. Just moving on slightly, and one final thing, I'm going to reflect very, very briefly on a moment in time when I had moved into the IT. I didn't come into IT through the traditional routes. I had made some life choices which meant my career probably started a lot later than most people's. Another story for another day. But at one point, I was working for Sage Software, and two people in particular gave me some opportunities and recognised some potential in me. And that was Julia Wedgwood and John Morgan. And because of that, that stuck with me. That really, really stuck with me. So this is why this quote here for me is very, very powerful, because I truly believe if you've worked hard, you've done well, and you have found that opportunity, you must remember that you didn't get there by yourself, and actually it's your responsibility to make sure you give something back, and to actually help as many people as you can to find those opportunities that are going to put them on their pathway in their career, in their, enthusiastic career choices. So it really is a very, very important thing to do, and to remember that we all have a part to play in helping each other along this journey, and ultimately help as many people as we can walk through those doors of opportunities. We will continue the work that we're doing. We've got lots in the pipeline. We're going to be doing we've got lots of degree apprenticeships starting this year. We've got some master's degrees. We're still doing the outreach stuff. So every small thing that we do makes a massive difference. So I'm going to leave it there. And obviously, if anybody has any questions, please fire them away. Yeah, some nice comments coming through there.
Kirsty, did you want to say a bit more about women in tech?
Well, yeah. So picking up on Nick's comment earlier, promoting tech careers to different groups and ages, and especially in the women in tech area, we got involved in an initiative earlier in this year, brainchild of Julia Smith. She worked alongside a number of other partner organisations to create different experiences for girls across 5-day periods. So the girls went into very, very different organisations, and this was held across 10 different organisations this year. And I have to say, it was terrifying talking to Year 9 girls, but even if we have just inspired one girl to be interested, that's more than there was before she walked in the door. So, absolutely amazing. And we do quite a lot of mentoring in our own time as well. I know Helen does, I know Emma does, I do as well, to try and help support women in tech and STEM. We're also engaged in things, girls in tech mentoring schemes as well. But again, it's all about trying to take a step back, increase the appetite for women to join tech, and actually demystify some of those roles. Like I said earlier, it's not all about writing code. There's a lot more to it. So yeah, about demystifying stuff and encouraging people. I absolutely agree. There's a lot's changed. A lot has changed over the last 2 years. Anything else that anybody wants to ask? Feel free.
Carl has put to the panel, really interested about your veterans' experiences. What personal traits do you find they bring from previous training or work that makes them well suited to your work?
Well, change. I mean, veterans are really amazing at change. So they have to change jobs every 2 years. That's what they do. So they have to be dropped into a new environment. They have to learn it really quickly. They have to lead. They've got some amazing communication skills. Interestingly, our veterans are very self-deprecating. They don't see how amazing some of the things that they've done. And quite often we hear, I was just doing such and such. And actually, when you dig underneath it, Emma, for example, decommissioned a whole station in Germany, like the whole kit and caboodle, all of the hardware, all of the people, and she did that and ran that whole project. Now that's no small feat, and as well as finding out that actually one of the networks bounced around to America before coming back. So, no mean feat. Another one of our veterans was he was Navy, but he was kind of in the helicopter things. The fear I would feel being up there and rescuing people is phenomenal. So, that bravery, that kind of being able to compartmentalize and put their concerns and worries to one side and really focus on delivery. So there's lots of amazing qualities, and they're just so self-deprecating and really don't realize how amazing they are. So we do quite a bit of mentoring with veterans on the side, behind the scenes, to get them ready for interviews and to make sure that their applications are to help translate their military skills into civilian words. So we do a lot of work in the background, and people like Mark Alloway and Helen has helped massively in that space as well as our veterans. We definitely roll out our veterans to help with that as well, because there's nobody better to lead something like that than somebody who's gone through that process.
One thing I would put on the back of there as well, they're really not afraid to get involved with new technologies and really hard working. Yeah. They look at at every little detail as well, which is great to see.
Yeah.
Lee Stanford. Great session, guys. I work with apprenticeships specifically in digital and tech, and really encouraging to hear how an organisation that size view them as a vital cog in the machine.
Absolutely, definitely a vital cog, and we want to do more with that. We are talking with Newcastle University and Sunderland University, and like I said earlier, we're gonna focus some of our attentions this year on that masters, that conversion. We've got lots of people who've got qualifications but not IT qualifications, and to help them invest in themselves, we're committing to help them convert some of their qualifications into technology or cyber masters.
Just another thing on the back of Lee's comment as well. I know we've worked with Opencast in the back and in the past, and they've been really encouraging towards apprenticeships. So have Virgin.
Yeah,
Virgin Money.
Virgin Money, yeah. Little story about Opencast, just so you know, we had a challenge for them. We were doing some automation training and worked with them to actually do this bespoke training package, and challenge them to be able to help support Matt, who is profoundly deaf. And again, they just took it on the chin, went, okay, we'll look at that and we'll see what we can do. And they took feedback after the first day, and then they applied the feedback after the first day to make the second day better. So really, really great commitment there.
Mm-hmm. I think apprentices as well, they get really involved with each other, especially in the student learning. I know there's quite a few community of practices, and everyone feeds off the back of each other's ideas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we've got a number of community of practices that we've set up, not just around students, but around front end and around development and testing. And I really think it's a brilliant way of sharing information. And we're just in the process of setting up some around Office 365 and BI to try and help kind of widen the skills pool across the organisation and using things like Power BI.
Sam Manson's put, it's a fun and rewarding challenge, Kirsty. I'm glad we can help with your learning programme. It's really inspired us.
Yeah.
Emma Howardson-Morley, we found that the different groups of people with different life experience bring us really different views that help with innovation as well, which is a great point. Yeah.
Absolutely. And, looking at things through different lenses and some of the lived experiences that people have really do help us to evolve and shape how we're moving in the future.
Mm-hmm. Which kind of ties... Sorry, Phil.
Sorry, so a point that I sort of wanted and forgot to bring up is, and kind of why I mentioned my lack of sort of a uni degree background is, and it goes with the quote there about shutting the door behind you is, you don't always have to look at the CV and just look for all this person hasn't got these skills, they hasn't got this hard a wizard at a technology or a language. A lot of the time we're looking for people with the desire to learn and a passion to get involved. And we found that, I found that with the military veterans, they might not have always had the exact technical requirements what they need, but they've got a passion, or they're happy to get stuck in and learn. And yeah, to the quote, I was in that situation where I didn't necessarily have all the qualifications up front, but I don't want to stop that from other people having any of those issues.
Absolutely, I think that's a really, really important point, Phil, and certainly that is something that we have done very, very differently. So just to kind of reframe that slightly, when people when we identify a potential candidate for a role, we're looking actually for their desire to learn, their enthusiasm, their passion, their commitment, and that doesn't translate in a bunch of qualifications. So really, we've changed the way that we approach our interviewing. Sometimes what we'll do is a sequence of conversations, really leading up to a more formal or more recognizable interview session, just simply because, and this definitely goes within the student cohort and also within the veteran cohort, is people don't always feel comfortable with interviews, whereas if it's positioned as more of a conversation, we can help shape them, and we can help them shape how they're going to get across some of their skills and qualities. And it is very much looking for that potential rather than looking at a fully formed person. Okay, anything else we wanted to cover?
I think that's about it, unless anyone else has any more questions. I do think that was a great point about looking at what someone can bring to the table rather than it being a checkbox exercise. So yeah.
It's the whole person we're looking at rather than a portion.
Yeah. Nick O'Reilly, great point. Too often we risk filtering out good talent based on university, and many of us had other priorities whilst we were studying. Potential, skills, motivation and capability are much more useful.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
Different priorities, and then had a typo with the word pint, so we obviously know what it's.
Yeah, you know what your priorities were, Phil.
Great.
Yeah. So, I didn't go to university until 2011 because of some of the life choices I had that I've mentioned earlier. And most certainly I was working full time with 2 small children and going to university at the same time. So that was an experience. That's all I can say. But I did get the qualification I wanted because there was the drive and the commitment from myself to actually attain what I wanted. And with people, it might be later in their lives when they want to come back to learning, or they learn in different ways. And it's about recognizing that people have different qualities and skills and bring different learning styles to the table as well. I wasn't drinking pints though.
Great. Well, if that's all the questions, I want to say thanks everyone for joining.
Yeah, brilliant. All right, thanks very much. Yeah.